Hola, boa noite, feliz quinta-feira. Woo-hoo-hoo. See, now it's rolling off the tongue a lot easier because I'm 2 weeks into my Portuguese class. Baby, ew. Still adjusting to how much of my life it takes, but it's okay. I'm having a good time. I'm here. You're here. Let's do this, y'all. Happy Thursday. Hey, hey, hey. Let's see who's in the chat. Hey, K Renee. Teresa's in the house. Boa noite. Action VJ. How you doing? Oh, hey, the ABX girl. Hi, Lori. Hey, PI. Pinky's in the house. Marguerite, I missed you today. Yay. Yes, I am enjoying Portuguese class. I've got study buddies. So, two of our Black Global Passport members are in class with me. So, we have like a little pod, let's say. But it's been really fun. We have a test next week, y'all. Now, I would be okay if it was just vocabulary, but they are introducing things that I have not worked on. Like my brain has checked out of like present participles and diphthongs and um, indicatives and what? And I was an English major. And I'm like, ooh, you having me dig back. But we'll see what happens next week. I'm excited. So, for those of you who do not know me, let's see who else is in here. Okay, who do not know me, hey. I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Global and the host of the Global podcast. So, if you're a Black person that's looking to move abroad, I'm your girl. I'm excited because we actually had, for those of you who are subscribed to our YouTube channel and who are in Passport, I saw a little bit of the news that I shared today. Look, Black's Global got another little feature, a little mention. In Investigate TV was doing a piece on the growing number of Americans moving abroad and gave a shout out to Black's Global and the website. So thank you, Investigate TV. Thank you, Courtney Bowden, for including us in your piece and feature. So happy about that. Yay. I know, right? I was like, what's a diphthong? It's been, because like, okay, I'll keep it clean. This is not Black's Global After Dark. Okay, I'll be good. Hey, K Renee, hey, and my piece is in the house. Yes. So it's been a lot of fun. But like I said, it's taken a lot on my brain. My brain cells. But other than that, things have been great, including, oh my goodness, last night, for those of you who are on our mailing list, and for those of you who got the wait list for Nomad Noir, you knew about this in advance. But last night, we held our Nomad Noir info session for the 2025 cohort. Oh my goodness, it was great. So many questions. Did a nice presentation to give everyone a flavor of what to expect for Nomad Noir 2025. We're actually doing 2 dates. So we are doing a spring cohort and a fall cohort. And it's already going fast. Okay. So if you are looking to scout Portugal and you want me to be your scout mother, your fairy scout mother, definitely at this point you should just send me an email because the people that are on the wait list, they attended the informational last night as well as the replay and the survey. So the process is you fill out a survey, those that send their deposits, first come, first serve. So it's going fast. So if you're interested, I would love to host you. I think we'll have a great time. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was great. Yes. Pinky, what? Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a lot. Hey Claire, how you doing? Hey, 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 y'all. All right. Okay. I know we've got some new faces in there. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I see. I'm seeing some of the comments. Okay, cool. So I'm trying to think, what else did I have for you in terms of announcements? So yeah, Nomad Noir, accountability group. So for those of you who are interested in getting support along your journey abroad, you can come into Black's Global Passport. We have our accountability group this month, as well as a workshop. We're going to be doing our timelines. We have several members that are making their Blaxit, their Exodus this year, and so or early next year. And so we're going to be workshopping that this month. So if you've been on the fence and you're not sure whether or not you want to join, this might be a good time. Speaking of Exodus, oh my goodness, guess what? It is Exodus Summit season. And can I tell you, like, that just like snuck up on me real quick. Exodus Summit is celebrating its 5th year. I am so happy for Stephanie and Rashida. They do amazing work. They always have phenomenal speakers. I was a speaker last year at the summit. I am excited, as well as for the fact that my partner in crime for the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit, Halisi Vincent, is going to be a speaker at this year's summit. So if you are a Black woman and you are looking to make your exit and you want to do it post haste, you might want to get yourself a ticket to Exodus Summit. I am putting that in the chat right now. I'll add it to the description for this video. Exodus Summit weekend is next weekend. Oh my goodness, it came up real quick, right quick. And then we are less than a month away from the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit. So, for those of you who are also interested in moving to Portugal, and you want to know the latest and greatest on all of the changes, of which there have been a many, you might want to get your ticket to the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit, which takes place November 1st through the 3rd, all online. And we'll have speakers on healthcare and immigration and all the things to help you with your transition abroad. So, with that, we're going to segue. I am excited for tonight's conversation. I have the honor and pleasure of speaking to an attendee of the first, I should say, Move to Portugal Virtual Summit, a coaching client, and a blaxitglobal Passport member, not to mention a 4-time expat, all rolled up into one. So tonight we're going to be talking with Maureen Jenkins. How you doing, girlfriend?
Hello, hello, Krishan. How are you? Boa noite.
Boa noite, boa noite. And you are joining me from Amsterdam.
Yeah, yes, I am. Yeah,
Which I was telling everyone, well, I wasn't telling everyone, I was telling you that Amsterdam has been on my bucket list for several years. And so I'm even more delighted that you're there.
come visit. Come through.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm excited. So, for those people that don't know you as well as I do, I'll give you a moment to introduce yourself to the audience.
Of course. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are joining us from. I am Maureen, as Krishan said. I am new to Amsterdam, like 1 month new. I literally just moved here from Sint Maarten, which is a part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, so somewhat related, where I had been living and working off and on for the past 3.5 years. And so as you see, I am a four-time expat, lived in Florence, Italy, lived in a village outside of Paris for about a year. Then Sint Maarten during the pandemic, I moved there because I figured why stay in Chicago and be cold.
Great
So,
point.
like everybody in our company, the folks who worked in offices weren't in offices. So why stay? And then I moved to Amsterdam a month ago. So this is my fourth time doing the expat thing, but I'm a passionate world traveler. Been to nearly 40 countries and territories. As my friends and family know, where my money goes, where my time goes. And I'm, always, where are you going next? Where's the next trip? And that's my passion. And I've also been able and fortunate enough to kind of weave a lot of the international type stuff into the work that I do. I work for a major food and beverage company, global company, and I do corporate speech writing, corporate communications. Former journalist, worked all over various newspapers, freelancing in travel and food as well, and just trying to live my best life by seeing the world. So
Yes.
here, thank you for the invitation. I'm so glad to be
Oh
catching
my
up.
gosh. Thank you. Because, it's been, what has it been? Almost a year since we were together. You came to Portugal and we got to spend some quality time together.
Yeah, it was. Oh my God, I guess it was almost a year because it was in January. I went for my birthday. So yeah,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
there, I was considering a move to Portugal. So I thought, well, why not go and check it out?
I know. I know. Oh my
My children
gosh.
are growing, so I'm like, I want to go see what it's like.
I'm telling you, this past year has been the fastest year of my life.
You have a lot going on, a lot happening.
I know, but I was also a single mom raising two kids, and I felt like, time wasn't going as fast as I'm like, well, where did a year go? Like, how did that happen? I don't even understand.
Kind of crazy.
But nevertheless, I'm glad we had our time together in
Yeah,
person and we're having our reunion, our virtual
I know.
reunion. Yes, it's so you have had such a story journey like you just shared with us. And your background is amazing as well as all of your travels. And so now that you are 1 month in
Mhm.
to Amsterdam and just reflecting on this is now your fourth stint. Like,
Mhm.
was St. Martin the longest time you had spent abroad in a country living?
Yeah, it definitely is. So just to go back a little bit, I
Mhm.
have wanted to live abroad. I've been trying to do this for a long time. So my first stint was in Italy, and that was in 2004. So I stayed there about 7 months. I had planned to stay a year, and this is going to get into one of the little learnings that I'm going to share with everybody later. But so I stayed there for 7 months. Then I was house sitting in a village outside Paris. I did that for a
Mm.
year. And then St. Martin, again, because I went during the pandemic, it was January 2021. I will never forget. I left on January 6th. So yeah, so
Wow.
that's a date that I won't forget for a lot of reasons. But that was the day
Right?
I actually was trying to leave, was going to France, ended up, it's a long story there, but ended up in St. Martin, which was wonderful. And I always believe everything happens for a reason. And you end up where you're supposed to
Mhm,
be, when you're supposed to be there. There are lessons you're supposed to learn. There are people you're supposed to meet, all that good stuff. So
mhm,
anyway, I was there in January of 2021, planned to stay maybe a few months. Fell in love with the Caribbean, became a bit of an island girl. Then went back to Chicago, which is where I'm from, and then
uh-huh,
decided to go back later that year. And then I thought, you know what? Because there's a friendship treaty between the U.S. and Dutch
mhm.
governments, it's relatively easy for Americans to get permanent residency on the island. I was like, you know what? Let me work on that. And so
Sign me up.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, too, my company, we still hadn't gone back to the office. We didn't know when we were going to
Mhm,
go. And my boss was like, live wherever you want. I don't care. He left. He's like, you go where you want. And so I was able to do the work I do. And again, I'm fortunate enough to, write for executives at the company. These were folks that I'd already been working with who knew me. I knew them. I knew their
mhm.
voices and lifestyle and all that sort of thing. And so since we were all dispersed anyway, I decided in January of 2022 to go back to St. Maarten, and I pretty much stayed there. Again, still officially living in the US and going back and forth to see my family, and then for work, maybe, every 3 months or so, but largely spending time in St. Maarten. So it was incredible. And that was like 3.5 years off and on. So
Wow, just like 3.5 years in paradise, because I've seen
huh?
videos and pictures of you just, living your best life,
I was
living your best
working
Caribbean life.
hard. I was working hard. And that's the funny thing, because I wrote for the CEO. And so sometimes he would joke, Maureen, where are you? Are you on a beach? Like, no, you see where I am. I'm sitting in my apartment. I'm sitting here writing. Of course I'm
I'm at the beach being fanned and fed grapes.
That's on the weekend. That's only on the weekend. Not
It's some champagne, maybe taking a yacht. It's okay. It's okay. All the hard work.
exactly.
No, definitely living your best life. I loved everything that I saw. And so, was it hard for you to make that transition to decide that, hey, you know what? I've enjoyed this time in St. Martin and I'm ready for like my next adventure. Was that like a hard decision for you to make?
No, it wasn't. And, there were a couple factors involved too, because as you know, I was working for the company that I work for in St. Maarten. And
Mhm.
so at a point they were, suggesting that I needed to live in a place where we actually had business operations. And St. Maarten,
Hmm.
fortunately, is not a place where we had those. And so, over time with, various conversations and all, leadership recommended that I move to a city where we had business operations.
Mm.
And they knew that I was not interested in moving back to the States. I was, very, very passionate about staying abroad and
Mhm.
continuing to work abroad, because really what I want to do and continue to do is a lot of global and international work. And so I was given a choice of a few different cities of places to live,
Mhm.
Toronto, London, or Amsterdam. And so
Ah.
yeah, and since my goal was always to live in Europe long term, and hopefully permanently, then
Mhm.
it was easy for me, because Toronto is a great city, love it. It's too cold, especially after living on an island. I'm like, no, I don't think that's going to work so well. And then London, again, city I love, but with all the stuff happening with Brexit, I thought, you know what, I don't want to jump from the was it the frying pan into the fire into the frying pan, or frying pan into the fire.
Mhm.
So, and knowing that I wanted to live in Europe and be part of the EU, it made
Yeah.
so much sense to come to Amsterdam. I had only been here once before I
Oh,
came.
wow.
So it wasn't like I was as familiar with it as I am in places in France and
Yeah.
Italy and the UK and
Yeah.
even Spain, but I remembered I had a great time here. I had come here for work, and
Mhm.
it's just the city just had a good vibe and
Yeah.
good energy. And so, we worked it out, and then was able to make the transition here. So that's what I've been doing for the past several months, getting things prepared and having stuff shipped from Chicago and Sint Maarten. And my sweet mom is always trying to send me stuff. It gets hung up in customs. We were talking about that earlier
Oh
today.
my goodness.
I,
Yes.
but it's all worth it. Ultimately, it's all worth it. And I think you just have to roll with the punches, roll with the changes, and not get so hung up on things not going exactly according to plan, especially when you're a type A Capricorn like I am. You just have to
Ah, okay. Okay.
breathe,
So,
relax, and breathe.
yes. So, with this type A Capricorn, using your words, what was it about living outside of the United States that was the draw? Because you said this was something that was a lifelong dream of yours, maybe not Amsterdam specifically, but you talked about Europe, but like what was the impetus for you?
Well, I think there were a few different things. Going back again 20 years now, and literally it was like 20 years ago this month, or in
Wow.
September. It's 20 years ago that
Oh
I
my
had my first
gosh.
live abroad adventure in Florence, Italy, where I had not been before.
Firenze.
Oh, sì, quella de la chita. But yeah, it was. I had actually, and this sounds crazy, but I had watched Under the Tuscan Sun, the movie that came out in 2000.
Yes.
People always say, "Oh, it's just fantasy. It's just television, or it's just a movie." It's like, well, that for me was like the impetus for me to like, I think
Yeah.
I want to do this. I think I want
Hmm.
to abroad. And I was working for Boeing at the time, and
Oh, wow. Okay.
another global company, and I had expressed interest in doing international work. And so we had conversations again about possibly doing a stint overseas.
Hmm.
And but how it is with big companies. They want to try to make it work, but then it doesn't work. And so finally,
Hmm.
like, you know what? I think I want to do this. So I'm going to quit and I'm going to go, which is, see, that's kind of crazy, quitting jobs. That you can do that at some points in life, maybe not.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
trying to do that now. But yeah, so I decided that I was going to leave the company. Fortunately, I had a great relationship with my boss, and so she became one
Hmm.
of the first clients. And I was writing for the company
Wow.
magazine, writing about our international business affairs and traveling around and going to various countries and talking to customers and clients all over the world. And so
Yeah.
we agreed, wouldn't it make sense if you're already living in Europe, you're going to be a whole lot closer to Dubai or Saudi Arabia or
Mm-hmm.
Iceland or all these other places where I needed to go to report stories for the company magazine. So it was great, and then I was also
Wow.
still doing freelance travel and food writing. So,
Yeah.
writing about the Italian olive
Yes.
harvest and things like, just all that cool stuff that you
Yes.
so it was cool. But so it was kind of a combination again. It was just wanting an exciting, interesting, different life. And not everybody, it's not for everybody. Not everybody
True.
wants to pack up and leave where they're from, especially because I've done all these moves solo. I haven't gone with
Hmm.
people, I haven't gone with a partner or a spouse or any of that. So, I think it takes a certain type of personality to do it,
Yes.
but I think the reward can be amazing. So,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, even though this has been the fastest year of my life, I think this has been jam packed with the most adventure. Like,
mhm,
one day is not like the next, which is exciting and
yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that has been true for you in all of your adventures as
Oh,
well.
oh yeah. And that's the thing too. I think time, while it goes fast, it also goes slowly because everything you do takes longer in a
Yes.
different country, in a different
Yeah.
language, in a different culture. It's
Hmm.
not, even simple things that we say are simple. Going to get your shoes repaired, going to the dry cleaners, going
Hmm.
to get a coffee, especially if you're trying to do it in another language. And
Oh,
just
yeah.
and just learning the cultures and the
Hmm.
mores and the things that are the way that people are and the way they do things differently. You
Hmm.
can't just be a bull in a china shop and just say, "Well, I'm going to come in and do it the way I've always done it." You have to
Yeah.
fit into a society in a way that things have been done for hundreds, if not thousands, of years, and
Hmm.
that's exciting. But it requires different skills. It requires a different part of your brain, I think, almost
Hmm.
to adjust to life where you are out of your comfort zone
Yes.
and where things are unfamiliar. It still can be exciting, but they're definitely different than they are back home.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I know you have, with your experience, 7 tips to share with us.
Yes.
And wanted to, we'll tackle these. We'll have a conversation. I see there's, a lot of conversation in the chat. Feel people are feeling very inspired by this conversation thus far.
Ooh.
So
I hope
this
they
is
have
awesome.
questions too. We want questions.
Yes. Yes. And definitely y'all in the chat, please put your questions. We'll get to them. So number one, let's do this.
Yeah, well, I think this is so critical and so important because just because you change location doesn't
Hmm.
mean you change your complete situation, right? So I
Hmm.
think, and I always think about what you said, I think it was during, maybe it was the Exodus Summit, but um, be clear on your why. Why
Yes.
is it that you're going? Why is it that you want to move? Not just leaving the US or wherever you're from and going someplace else. But why is it? Because there are going to become times when you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be annoyed, and things are not going to be easy. They're going to be difficult and challenging. So, the honeymoon period does not last forever. That's for sure.
No, it does not.
Everything's all great for a while, like in St. Martin. It's like, woo, this is fun. It's everybody's great.
It's like the country can do no wrong.
And then you're like, okay, the electricity is everything is slow, nothing is, and so, but again, it takes a while to get to that. So,
yeah.
And so, but back to the point, wherever you go, I think you really have to realize if you're not happy where you are, you owe it to yourself to try to find a place where you will be. But you also have to remember that you take yourself wherever you go. So if you are an unhappy, ungrateful person in the States, just moving to another country is not going to necessarily make you a happier person. You're just going to be an unhappy, ungrateful person who can't speak the language and is pissed off. That's not fun. That's not fun either. Yeah. And so again, I think we just have to do some soul searching before we decide that we're going to leave. And, and we can all work on ourselves. Lord knows I have plenty to work on. But just think about what it is you're leaving, why you're going. And then if you're going to a new place, try to think about, well, maybe there's some things that weren't working as well for you. Maybe it's dating, maybe it's work situations, whatever that is, feel free to start thinking about how you can improve them and make them better, but you're not going to run away from every problem or every issue that you have been dealing with. So, and I think as long as you're clear on that and you're kind of working through it and are prepared to work through that when you get wherever it is you're going, I think your experience can be a lot richer. So, because just changing location does not necessarily change all your problems and make them go away.
Absolutely, because that's just geography, right?
It is geography, and it can magnify them because now you're in an unfamiliar situation. You don't have your regular support system that was there at home. So, again, just keeping that in mind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because, I think you do yourself a disservice by not looking inward and doing some soul searching, getting clear about your why, getting clear on what it is that you want from, this new adventure. And some people use it as a way to transform and be something or allow a part of their personality that was dormant, in a new environment to run free. And that's great. But at the same time, like you said, what happens once the patina of the country wears off and then you're still confronted with some of the things that you thought that would magically disappear. And so I think for anybody who's watching this, just, whether it's talking to a therapist, someone you trust, coming into accountability group, doing some journaling, I think it really will benefit you and allow you to get the most out of this or your next chapter by doing that.
Yeah, completely agree.
Number 2, learning is overestimate how much it will cost to relocate to and live in your new country. Woo, baby.
Oh yeah, this is learning over 20 years of realizing this. So when I first moved to Italy, and this is the kind of thing you learn as you start doing these live abroad adventures. I went and I got this nice apartment in right next to the Ponte Vecchio in Florence, right across the river, the Arno River from the Uffizi Gallery. You world travelers out there who know Florence and who've been there, that's nice real estate.
And it is, because I stayed around the corner from the Duomo, so I know exactly where that is.
Exactly. Now, that's fine if you're visiting for a week, right?
Yes.
But if you're trying to live there without a full-time job on freelance salaries, trying to live like an affluent
Baller
American.
shot caller.
Okay, when you're not, when you don't, and then you think you got a little bit of money in the bank until you don't, right? And then back then, the euro was, I think, what was it, like $1.30 to each. We were losing like 30, almost 30% on every
Whoa.
coffee you bought, every plate of pasta, every cute pair of boots. I mean, your money goes really fast when
Oh my
you are living.
gosh.
And so, I think it's just really important to think about how much these things cost, even if you're just moving your stuff, shipping your things. Because, like
Mhm.
right now, even though I moved and my company is sponsoring my relocation, my visa and my residence permit and all that stuff, I still was paying to ship my things from
Mm,
Chicago and St. Martin. That costs a lot of money, you
mhm,
know, customs fees, like I was talking about, some, package that my mom had sent me. It's like you have to pay for all of that stuff. These things are not inexpensive, and
mhm.
you don't realize how much it is. We only get paid once a month here as opposed to twice a month in the States. So,
Mhm.
it's like you have to be prepared that the paycheck may not come in the way you expect because you're new to this entity of the business. So I
Mhm.
just think it's important for people, and I'm not saying that you need to be rich to move any place, because that
No.
is not the case. And it all depends, again, on where you're going. Some countries are more or less expensive than others, depending on how you like to live. Some people like to to spend a lot. Other people can live much more simply and frugally and still have a wonderful quality of life. And again, that's where the soul searching comes in. You have to be
Mhm.
honest about what's important to you and what creature comforts you're going to need. But
Yeah.
whatever you think it's going to cost you is going to cost you a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And so just being prepared for that sort of thing. And, you think you got a little bit saved, just add to that. And I don't know how much extra you may need because, again, everybody's situation is different and everybody
Mhm.
lives differently. But just realize it's probably going to cost you, even if you're going to an inexpensive place, it's still probably going to cost you more than what you read online or what somebody told you during a chat or whatever.
Mhm.
It's just easier that way once you realize,
Yeah.
and it is much nicer moving with a phone for me, at least, because I security at this point in my life. Moving with a full-time job
Yeah.
versus being a freelancer and really, really having to hustle. And that doesn't mean that people can't do it and do it well
Mhm.
and have great qualities of life and make plenty of money and all that stuff, especially
Mhm.
because technology makes it so much easier these days. But
Yes.
just keep that in mind so you don't
Yeah.
don't get
Pre
surprised, because I was going to stay in Italy for a year and I left after 7 months because I was just like, I don't want to be poor. So
Right.
go back to
Broken
Chicago.
Italy is like, "Oh." That hits a little different,
It
right?
does.
Yeah, and that's a great point because, yesterday's price is not today's price. The price
Mhm,
that people
mhm,
were quoting, a lot of people have come into, communities around the pandemic. I think that was a
mhm.
really big push for, everyone was online and,
Digital nomads and all that good
digital
stuff.
nomad, like all of these
Mhm,
things really became as in the forefront of the zeitgeist, right? Because it was like,
mhm,
kind of like this, what is that before? And this fringe type of lifestyle to like, oh, wait, this is attainable because
mhm,
everyone was home. And then now, or at that time, massive amounts of consumption of, content related to moving abroad, living abroad, how do you
mhm,
get residency and all of these things. And then sometimes people get fixated on a number that they
mhm,
heard and they don't even realize it was 4 years ago or almost 5 years ago because, lockdown was so prolonged.
mhm, mhm,
And I think it made many of us feel like we went from 2020 to 2025 in like a nanosecond. And now in that span, prices globally have gone up.
mhm,
It definitely has
mhm.
in Portugal,
Yeah.
from
And
even when
housing
I was on
housing.
my original trip.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So it's like, getting into community, using the resources, and I've done quite a few videos on this channel around that. really knowing your numbers, creating an emergency fund.
Yes,
Don't think that just because you're
absolutely.
in another country and you might, some things might be more affordable, like health insurance, that you can just be out here winging it.
Mhm. Exactly.
That is
You
not a
wing it,
plan.
this is what'll be happening. So
No, exactly, exactly. Because those that fail to plan to fail.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think sometimes it's, you live and learn, right? And you just
Hmm.
realize that if you want to do this and make this a sustainable life for yourself, as opposed to, maybe you just are going to do it for a short period of time or whatever.
That's true. That's
Oh, I
true.
see Kelly. Hey, Sarah. But it's so true. It's absolutely, absolutely true. And oh my God, my dear, dear, dear friend, Kelly.
Oh,
We met,
hey. Hi,
met
Kelly.
yes, we met living in Italy, and we had plenty of conversations back then about those costs. It's not a joke.
Hmm. Number 3, embrace the differences. You left home for a reason. Assume positive intent of those you'll meet and give yourself grace. Ooh, what's that one about?
Yeah, well, I think again, it's funny because it's like people say that they travel. We say the collective we say we travel because we want to experience new things. But a lot of
Mhm.
times what we really want is to have everything like home, but have the people speak with an accent. And we don't right? But
That is so true, though.
it's like I want everything. I want my ice and my Coca-Cola. I want my air conditioning. It's like no, it doesn't always work that way. If
Yeah.
you're going to move abroad, then you realize that you are going somewhere different because you wanted something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally, not everybody. Some people are literally looking to recreate exactly what they had at home, and if that's you, no judgment. But generally, you are looking for something to be different, and
Yeah.
so just leaning into that and
Mhm.
appreciating what is different about the place that you're going to and the culture, and I think that was the thing too. Like I said, when I was in St. Martin, I think when I first got there, I loved the fact that things were laid back, that people were not
Mhm.
working around the clock. I was the only
Yeah.
loser who was like working all the time and going to, I just never forget. You've seen pictures of me at these beach clubs I used to go to on the French side of the island. I would show up with my laptop on a Saturday, like a loser. I did have a glass of rosé. I always did have my.
Okay,
I
good.
was like, I'm going to be a loser with a laptop, but I will have my glass of wine here. But it was just that sort of thing. The reason you're going is because the lifestyle is laid back. Now, why are you going to take? Why are you going to go taking this crazy laptop? I know you got work to do, but why are you going to go do that? You know what I mean? It's like part of why you went is because you wanted a more laid back lifestyle. So you have to lean into that. Now, granted, the flip side of that is things take forever to get done because everybody's just chilling. Everybody's in a hurry,
Yes.
but I do think that you do need to we do need to try to lean into some of those things that are different when we go. And then this whole point about assuming positive intent. And this is one
Mhm.
thing I think about a lot when I hear people, because France is one of my favorite places. Paris is literally my favorite place in the world. And I hear a lot of people say, "Oh my God, Paris would be great if it wasn't for the French." Like, huh? What? Oh, they were rude. They didn't do this and they did that. And, it's like, wait a minute. We have to step back and we have to look at the behavior that we may bring that maybe we're
Mm.
unintentionally bringing. We walk into
Mhm.
stores and we don't say hello because we don't do that in the States. We just walk in,
True.
start feeling on stuff and touching merchandise. You can't you don't do in many other countries, that is completely rude, and you wouldn't walk
Yes.
without saying, "Bonjour, madame, bonjour, monsieur, au revoir, madame." It's like
Yeah.
we don't know how to be, and then we wonder why we're not received better. And again, I think
Great
in a lot of
point.
cases, we don't mean to be the ugly American. We don't mean to be rude, but
Mhm.
we don't know that there are certain
Yeah.
things you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be super loud on a train and talking, and it's quiet when it was quiet when you get on there. And now
Mhm.
y'all wah, 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 as we do. And then everybody's looking at you like, really? And then rude. They're rude. It's like, look, they had an
It's like, why are they looking at me?
I mean, look at it's like, come on now. But again, I think we have to give people the benefit of the doubt and to
Mm.
assume that, maybe there's just a little bit of something getting literally lost in translation.
Mhm.
Maybe there's they don't understand the way we are, and we may not exactly understand the way they are. But rather than assuming that people are automatically being racist or automatically, anti-American or whatever
Mhm.
it is, let's try to give other people grace and assume that they're doing the best they can, we're doing the best we can, and let's try to meet in the
Mhm.
middle. And I think too, in terms of moving abroad, just the whole notion of giving yourself grace when you're in a new environment and in a new
Yes.
place, because I think, again, back to the type A control freak, we are so used to being able to do everything ourselves and
Mhm.
thinking we're controlling things. And when things don't work out exactly the way we plan, then we're mad at ourselves and we're like, oh, I should have known that. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have. Give yourself some grace and
Mhm.
allow yourself the space to learn. You are in a
Mhm.
new culture, in a new environment. Just breathe. Sometimes we just need to take a breath and give ourselves the grace that hopefully we would give other people.
Absolutely. Every day that we are fortunate enough to wake up
Mm.
is another day that we have to learn, to grow, to
Mhm.
expand, and to connect.
Yep.
And I think a lot of what this journey and this life affords you is the opportunity to do those things, to
Mhm.
connect, to grow, to expand, to test yourself in new ways, and to also be tested, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And are we gonna pass the test or maybe not? Maybe get an incomplete.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. And we'll do number 4, and then I'll look in the chat and see if there's
okay.
some questions.
All right.
So, number 4, be intentional about building community once you land. Make local friends as well as expats.
Absolutely.
I
And this
couldn't
I
agree more.
think it's so important, especially important when you move solo. But I think it's also important if you're moving even with a family or if you're moving with a
Mhm,
partner or, whoever you're going with. When you get to a new community, try to find people. Ask around even before you go. Who do you know? Because that's the thing. Once you tell people where you're going, oh, I got a friend from high school that moved to Amsterdam. Oh, I have a cousin who lives there. Oh, I have a colleague who lives outside of the
mhm,
city. And letting people connect you to other people. And that has been so important to me everywhere I have gone. When I lived in Florence, when I lived and even in the village outside of Paris, and definitely in St. Maarten, and even here in Amsterdam, where again, I'm working for a company that has an office, even though I largely work from home. But I think you do need to find those people that are going to give you a sense of grounding, that can help you explore, that can help you avoid a lot of the expensive mistakes that you're going to make, who can
mhm.
introduce you to people. Because, now that I'm here in Amsterdam, a good friend connected me to some of the Black women in the Netherlands group,
Nice.
or just Black folks in the Netherlands, or expats
Mhm.
in the Netherlands. I think it's so important to find those, because then you can type in, where can I go and find, literally, I was like, I need some barbecue. Who can tell me where can I go get my hair did? Where can I do,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you just need to be able to find that. And I think it's not, obviously it's important to connect with other Black folks, but even like groups like Internations, I,
Mhm.
things like that, where it's expats and it's they may be Dutch people, but they have either lived abroad or just very internationally minded. It gives you a nice sense of community and finding people that, not everybody's going to become your best friend, but it's just nice to have somebody to go out for coffee with and just kind of find out how they got settled and what they were able to do to make life
Mhm.
easier for themselves. And then conversely, making local friends, because I think, again, as English speakers, and I'm not fluent in any of the languages, I'm going to talk about that later, but I'm not completely fluent. I can't discuss world politics or whatever in
Mhm.
Italian, French, or Dutch, but But I think it's important to be able to make local friends, if not for, if only because they're going to help expose you and introduce you to the culture
Mhm.
and tell you things that you would not have known. And even maybe other expats who've been there for years or are a bit more
Mhm.
isolated or in an expat bubble might not be aware of. And I just think about when I lived in the village in called Samois-sur-Seine, outside of Paris. I met like an older couple, Chris and Claudine, who basically kind of adopted me and took me in. In the sense of, they knew I was there by myself. They knew I was there house sitting, and they would invite me over for meals. And, it was just really lovely. And then when my dad came to visit, he got to know them and got to meet them
Oh,
as well.
wow.
I went to Brittany with them. That's where they're from in France. So
Mhm.
one of the trips, they always wanted to take me to their hometown and where they were from. It's just that kind of thing is invaluable. And I remember Chris,
Mhm.
when I needed to go and get my visa and all that stuff done, because I barely spoke. I still don't speak French well, but I really didn't speak it then. But he went with me, and he was my translator. He was an older gentleman, so
Wow.
he actually got his PhD at Northwestern, where I went to school. Many
Wow.
years before that, but he always had this wonderful affinity for Chicago and for the
Mhm.
U.S. and for Americans, and just beautiful, beautiful people. And I just think
Mhm.
the experience that I would have had living in that village of 2,000 people, had I not met them and met other local people who became friends of mine that I'm still in touch with, I just think it have been very different. And I think that's also too, when we're talking about spending ridiculous amounts of money on rent and stuff, local people know
Mhm.
how not to pay. They're not,
Ooh, tell it.
they
There's
know
a hidden market.
they got cousins, brothers, friend has a place.
Yes.
You will be paying local rates for that, not the American expat rate. But you don't know that if you don't know anybody. So again,
Exactly.
how that's another reason, not just, again, from a cultural perspective, and
Mhm.
it makes your life richer, but literally can keep your money in your account. That can be nice. You don't
Absolutely.
know what you don't know, and local people can help expose you to that. So
Yeah, because it's not uncommon. I'll use Portugal as an example, where you have to get your accommodations before you even apply for your visa.
absolutely.
And so, in doing so, usually you are forking out quite a bit of money because you're using public sites or relocation
Right.
specialists.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, there is a hidden market where locals do their transactions between
Mhm.
one another,
Exactly.
because outside of the United States, and the United States is a very individualistic society,
Mhm.
but also has a lot of technology, where we have all these websites and MLS and all of these things
Right.
that don't necessarily exist in other countries. And because people are more communal in those countries, it's who you know or who knows you. And if
Exactly.
somebody told me that not to do business with you, I'm going to trust that person.
Absolutely.
And to that end, being able to, ingratiate yourself, learn, like you said, more of the local customs and mores, as well as communing with expats.
Mhm.
Because, I know we've been talking about, like, the cultural things and, et cetera. But
Mhm.
there are, times where if you don't hear from somebody in a couple days and you're used to hearing from them, then you can say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? Let me check on this person and do like a wellness check, make sure they're okay. Or
Mhm.
if, God forbid, someone gets sick or dies, we're each other's like family. We're like
Exactly.
the first line of defense, because
Mhm. Mhm.
all of us, our closest loved one is at least a sea away.
Absolutely.
And so that is where, that connectivity
Mhm.
really makes a difference. I know some people like to move in silence or think that they can be, on an island by themselves, but
Mhm.
it really, will help you by connecting more. And like you were saying about all those wonderful experiences that you had with translation and people helping you, I find that my belief in humanity, especially
Mm.
when it can be challenged when you're,
Yes.
inundated with negative news all the time, can make you
Mhm.
think like, oh my gosh, we're all lost. But all of the kindness that has been extended to me literally on a daily basis
But
gives
perfect
me,
strangers in a lot of cases too, right?
yes,
That's always amazing
absolutely.
to me. It amazes me
Yes.
every day.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. It's not, and I'm not saying it's all America, but at least in my case, it was mostly. But
Yeah. That's a whole other discussion.
that's a topic for another day. But it was like, oh wow, there are kind people, there are good people in this world, there are people that do things and extend themselves literally without expecting anything in return.
Absolutely.
And that's just the beauty of, being in this life in 2024 and thinking like you can get yourself into thinking like, oh wow, the good times were when I was younger and,
Mhm.
and couldn't fully appreciate it. And it's like, no, the best literally is yet to come.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to segue over to some of these questions and then we'll jump back to the list.
Okey doke.
Okay. So, Lori,
Hey,
how
Lori.
did
Oh, I
you?
know Lori.
Hey,
Chicago.
hey now.
Hey. How did you build a community during your travels and stays? Um, Well, one thing, like I said, if, when I'm planning a trip, when I'm going somewhere, whether I'm going to live there or if I'm just going to be somewhere for a while, and technology again makes it so much easier now than it was 20 years ago. But asking around, who am I? I'm going to Amsterdam. I'm going to pick a place, somewhere in Tuscany. Does anybody
Mm,
know anybody there? And it's incredible how many folks will speak up and connect you to people. Even perfect strangers sometimes will do that. And I think that part of that is the value of being engaged in organizations and groups like blaxitglobal. Not to that was a not a pre-planned commercial, but I do think it really does.
well
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah, but it's true, things like that. And blacks in Portugal, or like I mentioned, internations, or some of these other things. And even just asking friends, because I think so many of us are connected to people who, like us, appreciate global travel or are trying to be citizens of the world and know a lot of people in a lot of different
Mhm.
places. So I think it's reaching out to folks. And then I think also for those of us who are introverts, and nobody ever believes I am one, I'm a complete,
They don't
I'm a
believe me either.
I'm a writer. I'm a total introvert. But I think you have to put yourself out there. And especially in my case, where I work at home most of the time. One thing
Mm.
that I have found is literally going out to eat. And I can't cook that well.
Mm.
So, and I'm working a kind of crazy schedule here because most of my colleagues are still in the States or in Canada. So, but I do make a point to go out and eat. I have met so many people going to restaurants, whether it's the servers or the chefs or bartenders or other diners in places, just going out and putting yourself out there. And
Yeah.
I think you have to extend yourself. And then you find that people extend themselves as well. But sometimes we have to step a little bit outside of our comfort zone and
Mhm.
and do find those things that you like to do as well. What I usually try to do when I get to a new community, I try to find a church. I look and find
Mm.
out, is there an Anglican church? Because if it is, well, I'm an Episcopalian, but they speak, they're going to speak English at an Anglican church because it's the Church of England. So I know I'm going to know what they're saying. So that also can be a way. Find those things that you like to do. I like to do
Mhm.
yoga. So it's like, okay, can I find a yoga studio? And then I've met,
Mhm.
some dear friends in St. Martin by going to one of my best buddies now was a yoga instructor that I took a class from in St. Martin.
Oh my gosh.
So again, but that was because I was doing things that I like to do anyway. And so therefore
Mhm.
you've already got a bit of a natural connection. So whatever your thing is, if it's
Mhm.
like to drink wine, you like to go to the beach, you like to, surf, whatever your thing is, find that. And I think that also gives you just a natural connection with people.
Mhm. Absolutely. All right. And Radiant Renewal. Do you
Hello.
hire a local to teach you the language once you arrive to your location since there are so many different dialects? Ooh.
Good question. Well, and this also gets back to Lori's question. I think when you land in a new place where they don't speak or where you don't speak their language, signing up for language classes is a wonderful way to meet people as well. Because I know that's one way I did when I got to Florence. I met, and a lot of times, sometimes they'll be younger, sometimes they'll be older, but just cool people who are also new to an area, and they're starting as you are basically as beginners. And then language schools and things like that also offer a lot of social events and things, because they know that these are people who are probably new to an area and they're looking to meet other people. So it just gives you a way to make connections. So I, taken language classes in different places. Here in Amsterdam, because my schedule's kind of crazy and because I'm going to be traveling back to Chicago in a couple of weeks, I couldn't join like a regular class. So I did get a private teacher who, is flexible. She came to my apartment this morning. We're working on Dutch. I am literally completely a beginner. So that is one way to at least start learning the language. And I'm sure, again, there are different dialects of Dutch depending where you are, but I'm mostly going to be staying in Amsterdam. So the teacher that I am working with is, an Amsterdam native, but she also has studied French and Italian. She was a language major. So that
oh my gosh,
really, really helpful, because I'm able to make connections between the way things are said in Italian or French. And then there are a lot of similarities, even though Dutch has some tough sounds like, guttural G's and things like that. But there are a lot of similarities, and it's making it easier for me to learn the language. But I agree, it depends where you go. Like if you were in Spain or if you were in Italy, depending where you're living, it probably is a good idea, especially if you're living in a smaller community where people don't speak English. If you're living in Florence, where people are, lots of English speakers there, and like to think that their Italian is kind of like the King's English type thing, So when you're learning it there, it's a little different than if I were in Sicily and I was learning Siciliano, or if I were in another part of the country where people, spoke with a different dialect. So I think it really does depend where you are and where you're going to spend most of your time.
Yeah, that I think brings us to tip number 5. Try to learn the language.
Yes. And it's not easy. I will admit that. And I think it is true that like the older you get, the harder it can be, unless you really, really have a good ear for languages. That's why kids are so easy to pick things up, because they're like little sponges and they're not afraid of making fools of themselves. They just do it. They just speak. Just do it. And I think so many of us, we're so self-conscious. We're used to, again, being type A and everything's got to be perfect, that we don't want to try. But I think it really does matter, especially because it's a sign of respect when you go to a culture, because like living in Amsterdam, pretty much everybody speaks English here. And the Dutch speak English better than we Americans in many cases. And it's like, ooh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
But I am in their country. So I feel like, just even though I know you'll understand me and I can speak to you in English, I want to at least understand the pleasantries and know those sorts of things. And for me, I'm always big on pronunciation. I may not be able to say very much, but I want to say it with the right accent.
Yes,
so at least it sounds
absolutely.
Pretty, or it sounds good. And then people think, oh, well, she could say more. And then you realize, no, please stop. I'm just pretending.
Yeah, eu falo um pouco português.
But I do think, again, it's a sign of respect. And I think you learn a lot about a culture through its language, even certain, like the slang phrases or the idioms and those different things of how they say it. Because like this morning, it was funny because my language teacher was explaining to me how to ask what time it is. But literal translation in Dutch apparently is, how late is it? Which is interesting, because Dutch people are incredibly prompt. They are so prompt. You never get anywhere late here. So CP
time does not exist there? I'm just saying.
It exists here. But again, it's part of the culture. Being prompt, being early, being on time, and that is a challenge for Maureen Jenkins. And as my mother knows, it is a challenge for me.
From Chi-Town.
Okay, okay, and my dad and my sister and everybody who knows me. But that's the thing. It's how they even ask what time is it. It's how late is it.
That is
That kind of gives
interesting.
you like a clue into the culture. So if you
Mhm.
don't know that and you haven't learned the language and you don't realize how things translate sometimes, then you can kind of see what certain things are important to
Yeah.
people within
Mhm.
a culture. So I don't know. I just think it's good. And it's yeah, you're gonna sound silly and you're gonna make mistakes. But again, I find that people are so incredibly gracious and
Mhm.
willing to willing to help you most cases,
Yeah.
especially in Italy and, because they're so excited
Mhm.
to learn Italian that they're just like, whoa. Because I went today to when I was on my way home to meet my language teacher, I was like, you know what? My Dutch isn't very good, but my Italian's kind of decent. I'm going to go and
All
get a coffee from
right.
the cafe. So I can like do I can do the transaction in Italian. And,
Yeah.
it's just kind of fun because you can find, especially in cities like this, there's so many different cultures here.
Mhm.
Lots of Italians, lots of French, lots of, people from various backgrounds and cultures. And so it's kind of fun to just practice a little bit. So
Yeah.
we're not
And
looking just do it.
exactly. And one of the ways to get over your fear is more often than not, you may never see that person again. Right? And even
Yes.
if you do, they may not remember you, right?
Oh, they'll
But
remember you were the one that was, oh, that was so cute. She was so
yeah, right. They're like, you tried.
cute.
And literally just doing that, you don't understand how much goodwill you buy yourself
Oh, true.
just by trying. Because
Mhm.
like when I struggle with a word in Portuguese, people are like, oh my gosh, they think it's the greatest thing because they're like, our
Oh,
language is so hard. Oh my gosh, she's trying. And you're like, you think you're a rock star, right? So
exactly.
rather than get caught up in the, oh, I didn't conjugate, or, I said I'm still working on my R's and not having them be, English
Mhm.
speaking R's and
Mhm.
more like a,
Yeah,
that
kind of like
whole
Earl
thing.
Jimmy that
Yeah, like it's going to be a work in progress,
oh,
but
yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's just the mere fact that I'm trying is tremendous.
Mhm.
And for me, learning the language was something that was high priority for me. And as soon as I could register for the class, which I registered for it in February,
Mm, mhm.
and it didn't start until September, that was just something that I really wanted to prioritize in the first part of my time here, not to
Mhm.
become fluent, but become conversational
Exactly.
and build my confidence. Like I was happy today when I took Bailey out for a walk this morning, and then I went to the grocery store and I ran into my neighbor, and I usually see him when I'm walking her, and I didn't
Mhm.
have her with me, and he doesn't speak English. And so I told him in Portuguese, like, hey, I started my language classes last week and I'm into week 2. And I said the whole thing in Portuguese, and he was like, and that's it. And then I did a bow and he just laughed.
Funny.
He laughed. He thought it was hilarious. He said, so I told him, I said, well, I go every day except for Wednesdays. And I think what he said was, okay, that means I'm gonna quiz you on
Oh,
Wednesdays when
oh
I
goodness.
see you. At least I think that's what he said.
Might have been asking you out. I mean, who knows, right?
I don't know. He's like 90.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, you never
He's not that old. He's probably like 70, but
know. Okay. But it
but it
is
was
nice,
cute. It was
right?
cute.
It is. And it's just nice when you're on public transportation and the train is stopped in the station and you have no idea what's happening. And you're looking around hoping you
Yes.
can figure out by context clues what other people are doing or not doing. And
Yes.
there's just a comfort level and at least knowing the basics. Like if they're saying this train is on fire or something, that you can at least
Yeah.
get off and run or something. You know what I mean? So it does help.
Exactly.
It does help to learn.
Yeah, I'm looking at going to Togo in February.
Ooh, cool.
And I'm excited. I'm already planning my 2025 country visits. And I was like, ooh, I got to brush up on my French. It's I was studying
Mhm.
French during the pandemic in the beginning, coming off the heels of visiting my friend in 2019. And I was a bad American. I was like, oh, she's there. She speaks the language. I don't need to learn anything. And then I felt like an idiot the whole time. And I was like, no. So then I went like deep
Oh,
into like practicing. But now it's been some years. So I'm
mhm.
like, okay, I got to pick it back up. Like if I'm going to do this in February. So by that time, I will be at the tail end of my Portuguese
Oh, yeah.
class. So it'll
But it'll make
be,
it easier too if
yeah,
you're
it'll
like
have me enough
related
mental space to add another
and they're
language and
related.
revisit.
So it'll probably
Yes,
come back easier, So
exactly. And I think one of the things that you said, and I'm not sure if people caught the through line, is nothing is wasted. Like when
mm,
I think about your journey and the countries that you've spent time in and the languages that you've picked up along the way, all of those things, build upon the
mm,
next experience, which ultimately has enriched, in my mind, listening to you, this new experience that you're having in Amsterdam.
mm-hmm. That is so important. And I think that's if we think of that just as a lesson in life, that nothing is ever wasted, that every experience, whether it's positive one or not so great, can be put to good use. And
Hmm.
I do love that, like you say, that everything builds on itself. And just one last thing too on the language tip. I know everybody's got translator apps on their phones. Carry a phrase book, an actual phrase book,
Mm.
because you will be somewhere and you will have no Wi-Fi and you will have no internet and you will need to say something and you will have no way to do that. So
Yeah.
as a old school, like I like books, I like paper. So get one of those little Frommers or Lonely Planet or whoever's little phrase book when you're going to a country, put it in your bag.
Mhm.
It's going to be tiny, but just in case you need it and you don't have Wi-Fi or don't have access to technology, you're going to be grateful that you had that. So anyway,
That is
I'm
true,
looking at all
especially
my little phrase books sitting on the shelf right now.
that's great advice because like makeshift sign language can only get you so far.
Mhm. Exactly. You need to get to a doctor or something and you got
Yeah,
to see some person, or
exactly.
I mean just anything. You just never know. And I guess even though I like to consider myself a very optimistic, positive person, I'm also
Hmm.
a fatalist. So I kind of think that sometimes, especially technology, you just never know when it's not going to work. So get yourself
Yeah,
on Amazon and get yourself a
Kelly
phrase.
agrees. Great
See,
tip on the
yes,
phrase book.
we know.
Yay. All right, on to number 6. Ooh, there's a little buggy. I have the window open, so I guess it's a moth. It's like,
Oh,
oh look, there's light.
well, at least it's warm enough to have the windows open, so that's exciting,
It
right?
was so humid in Portugal today, in Lisbon in particular, and I got home and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" But then now the humidity is dissipated. But I was like, "Oh, it's such a beautiful night. Let me leave the window open." Okay, back to the list. Number 6, find your supportive tribe online and around the world. Be careful who you share your dreams with. Ooh, if that ain't a bar. Ooh, tell us
So
more.
yes. Well, and I talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of finding those people that can help inspire you and encourage you. So, again, whether you're doing a move to Portugal summit, whether you are joining some of these Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups, just find people who will help keep you encouraged, because the times will
Mm,
come again when the honeymoon is kind of wearing off, or where times are going to be tough, or you're going to need something and there's going to be a challenge. You just need to have those people that you can go and sometimes just gripe to, not that
mhm.
you become one of those people, but sometimes you just need to blow off steam and you just need to vent.
Yes.
And that's okay. And sometimes it's hard because folks back home, they're interested, but they're living a completely different life, and they're not really that. Sometimes people are like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you're doing that. You go do you, girl."
Mhm.
But they're not. they aren't necessarily interested in hearing you complain about your life overseas and whatever it is, whatever little issue
Mm.
or problem you're dealing with. So it's nice to have people locally or in community, some sort of online community that can be there and answer questions for you, and just, again, can be a sounding board. And conversely, and as a writer, I always hate ending things with prepositions. So, be careful with whom you share your dreams. Let me rephrase that. but
Mm.
but no, I do think sometimes that we're so excited about something and we feel that this is our calling or this is really what we want to do and something we're really passionate about, especially when we're talking about moving overseas. Not everybody is like on board with that.
You
Or
don't say.
people can love you dearly. I've just been so fortunate that, my parents and my sister and brother-in-law and my friends have been so wonderful and supportive all these years of me and my crazy ideas, as my mom calls me, the gypsy baby. But, not everybody is fortunate enough to have those kinds of folks in their corner. In the sense that they are going to be there regardless. They'll be there in the good times, the bad times, to help you, to pick you up if things don't go exactly the way you want it. But I think you have to, that's why I think it's important to find those people who will keep you encouraged when you're thinking of doing something that maybe other people in your family or in your friend group haven't done, would never do. That does not mean that it's not right for you. But
Mm-hmm.
have to find those people who are going to keep you buoyed and keep you supported in your dream, and encourage you to pursue that, even if it's, again, it may not be something that other folks, for whatever reason, feel is a good idea or feel is right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those of us that moved here being Portugal in 2023, it was so wonderful that there were so many of us
Mm-hmm.
moving at the same time. We all moved within 2 to 3 weeks of one another.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had, some of them a year and a half together in accountability group and
Mm-hmm.
getting to know one another, where we were in the process, everybody was like hitting these milestones around the same time and cheering each other on or consoling one another in the
Mm-hmm.
instance of a challenge. And it's interesting, we've been here now over a year, and those ties are still just as strong as they were a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Where, once we got to, to paradise, promised land, wherever, could have easily just dissipated.
Right. Right.
But they didn't, and they haven't. And, I've done the freedom dinners, they do,
Mm-hmm.
the meetups, we have different things. Quite a few of them were celebrating with my birthday with me. And we, traveled together. It's just a bond because we
Mm-hmm.
shared this experience with one another, and we've created so many core memories
Yeah.
with one
Yeah.
another during this process. And so you're right. Like sometimes when you're trying to explain to maybe a loved one or a friend back home, they don't have the context, or it
Mm-hmm.
requires so much setup because they don't
Right.
have the frame of
Right.
reference, that it's just like,
Right.
okay, is this person going to listen while I do the 10-minute setup just so they can know where we are in
What?
this
Huh?
story?
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, I know I'm being supportive, but come on, let's get on with it, right?
Exactly.
Um, and so that's where I feel like the tribe has been so beneficial
Mm-hmm.
to creating a space of a soft landing for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's
Hmm.
just wonderful to find people that are so welcoming, you know,
Yes.
and answering the question. I'm always amazed when people send in what seem to be like basic, simple questions. The kindness, again, of strangers online in these groups that are willing to answer these questions that you really could have Googled and got an answer to, but that's okay. But
We'll
but
give
it's
you a pass occasionally.
yes, and it's wonderful, and it's so wonderful that people are that warm and that welcoming. And so again, you got to just find what is it? Get in where you fit in and find your people.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to go over to one more question and then we'll do number 7. Okay, so Love Park Connection. How do I join the accountability group? Great question. You can join Black Global Passport. I'm just going to put that in the chat and come on in. You'll find me inside. The water's nice. We have a lot of fun in there. No, I think, doing this now, next year, Black's Global turns 5, which is kind of
Woo.
hard to believe. Um, and, seeing so many people along their transitions to their
Mhm.
lives abroad, either through Passport, our former Facebook community, through the podcast, DMs, what have you. It's
Mhm.
just been the most purposeful work I've ever done in my life.
You're like Harriet,
Um,
aren't you?
hmm?
Like Harriet Tubman, huh? People.
I am appreciative of that. Thank you. I received that. And it really is. It warms my heart. And so I love getting the messages and inspiring people. I'm excited for the next season of the podcast and bringing more stories and inspiration to folks, especially as, you know, 2025 will be quite interesting. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Okay. All right. So back to our list, your list. Okay.
Mhm.
Number 7, last one. Life
That
is short. Take the leap. Consider a trial run. You do not have to move forever.
absolutely. And I think that's the thing that, whether we're, as we get older, and even if we're not, I think,
Mhm.
life is a blessing and it's not promised to us. Good health
Mhm.
is not promised, longevity is not promised. And I really do think that it's important for us to do those things that we think, and who knows, right? You never know. If you don't take a
Mhm.
chance, you'll never find out.
Yes.
And nobody's saying that you have to leave forever. You can always go home. If,
Mhm.
maybe think about doing a trial stay someplace. If you've always thought, you know what, Mexico might be the place for me. Or maybe it's Costa Rica, maybe it's Uruguay, I don't know, maybe it's South Africa, wherever it is.
Mhm.
Maybe see if you can stay for 3 months. Maybe ask if you work for a company, maybe see if that company will let you work from another office or another location, or just let you work remotely for 2 or 3 months. And if, as my mom always says, all they can say is no, right?
Mhm.
And then try to figure out if there a business case, is there a sweet spot between where you want to go, what you want to do, what the company needs, and what they could benefit from. Because I always think about too, I had come up with a kind of slightly cockamamie idea 5 years ago, and I told my boss I wanted to go, and it did make sense though. I wanted to go and spend a couple months working from Europe, and like I told
Mhm.
that I'm not even asking you to pay for it. I'm just asking you to let me go and do it, because I wanted to learn more about our company's business. And you're not going to
Mhm.
learn it just being on phone calls. We weren't even really doing video back then. This is like 2019 before the pandemic.
Wow.
It was like you're never going to understand the business if you don't go, and you don't go to the factories, and you don't go to the
Mhm.
offices, and you don't
Yeah.
meet the colleagues and stuff.
Mhm.
And he thought it was a wonderful idea once he finished thinking, what's she trying to do here? And then he thought, yeah, of course. Of course you can do that. And so again, if you don't ask, nobody had ever asked. So if you,
Yeah.
what is it you, this Bible says, you have not because you ask not. So
Ooh, yes.
you need to put it out there, and you need to find out again, where's the sweet spot between what is needed from a business perspective and what you want to do and what you want to get out of it. And I,
Mhm.
wonderful people. And that helped set me up for what eventually ended up being a move to Amsterdam, years later. But you got to keep putting it out there,
Yeah.
and letting people know what it is that you want to do. Or if you
Mhm.
work for yourself, maybe it's even easier to go. As if you're American, we're blessed that our passports let us go a whole lot of places without visas. And a lot of countries let you stay at least 3 to 6 months. I know St. Martin will let you
Mhm.
stay 6 months. The EU will let us stay for 90 days before you have
Mhm.
to think about opportunities to go and try it out and see if it's a place that you would want to go. And if you think you're cut out for it. And you may find out, you know what, I really love being at home. And there's nothing like travel to give you a different window into where you come from and what you've got back home. Either it may make you appreciate
Mhm.
much more and you don't want to go, or you are like running for the hills and you don't ever want to come back. You never know. But try.
Mhm.
So I just think, if you have the opportunity to see the world or see parts of the world, if you've got a friend that moved somewhere, tell them, hey, I think I want to come visit. I just had a dear
Mhm.
friend who just came and visited me last week,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
my friend Jean from Chicago. But
Oh.
I think take advantage of that when people, and I
Mhm.
always tell folks, you want to come visit, please come visit. I would love to
Mhm.
see folks, and I think many people feel that way because they want to, show off the new place where they're living, or they want to,
Mhm.
um, just expose other folks to things that they've had a chance to take advantage of. So, if you get a free place to stay, go. That's always my thought.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, like, I was telling you about the time I went to France, to Paris. It was a former colleague that had gotten a transfer to
Mm-hmm.
our office in Paris. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me go visit her. And I stayed with her for a few days. When I had my birthday, my friend and her husband came and stayed with me. And
Mhm.
coincidentally, her daughter and her husband actually just moved to Portugal about 3 months ago now. So I have another reason for her to come visit because, her child lives a few minutes away from me.
Exactly. Cool.
um, but it's wonderful when you have, those ability, take advantage of those
Mhm.
times
Mhm.
to do like a test run. I think that's a brilliant way to see whether or not, this is something that you want to do or you can see yourself doing long term. And it's so interesting, now I've got about half as many countries as you do under my belt. But I notice as of late now when I travel,
Mhm.
when I was in the States, I would go away for 2 weeks, like 3 weeks, depending on how far I was going away.
Mhm.
And every time now that I've traveled to other countries since I've moved to Portugal, now I've been to, I think four countries now since
Mhm.
I've been here
Mhm.
living here. I'm now I'm like, oh, I'm fine with like 3 or 4 days somewhere, and then I wanna come back home,
Mm.
Whereas
Mm.
before, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't ever wanna go back. I could make 3, 4
Exactly.
weeks,
Please don't make me go back.
Don't make
Please
me go back." Now I'm
don't.
like, "Okay, for 3, maybe 5 days somewhere, I'm ready to come back home every time." And I
And it
was like,
feels like
"Oh,
home too to you though, right? And
yes.
that's the thing. And I think that's an interesting concept of home. What is home and
Yeah.
where is home? And is home what you create? Is home where your family is? What is home? Can you have more than one home?
Yeah,
And that's,
exactly.
I think, what being a citizen of the world is. You
Mhm,
are at home in so
mhm.
many places, and home is where you feel, where your spirit feels at rest. And that's, I think,
Yes.
important. I think that's very important. Life is short.
Yes.
Find that place.
That's right, and Jess said it, this it's a leap year, so
Mhm.
you gotta go do it, and Baha and Alpha said,
Yes.
uh, yeah, yeah, you have to
All
ask.
they can say is no. Thank you.
Yeah,
Closing along it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if nothing
exactly.
else, what I always like to say is you have put it out there.
Mhm.
So when you tell them I'm walking out the door, I told y'all what I wanted to do. I told you
Yeah.
what my goals were. So you can't say, oh, we didn't know, but we didn't know. We never knew you wanted to work abroad. We never knew you were interested. No,
Mhm.
no, you know. And so, again, I think you just have to let people know. And sometimes you plant the seed. I've been talking to people at my company
Mhm.
about doing essentially what I'm doing now for 6.5 years.
Mhm.
And sometimes it takes time to, and again, the pandemic was a different type of situation because I was able
Mhm.
to kind of pick up and go because everybody was everywhere.
Yeah.
But now to be in a situation where I'm, so fortunate and so blessed to be in a wonderful country and wonderful city with with a great job and the
Yeah.
support of the country of the company and being able to do it all legally, because that's the thing. I'm not trying
Mhm.
to stuck in
Yes.
prison and trying to run away from the authorities because I've overstayed my time.
On the lamb, on the
Yeah,
lamb.
I'm not that much of a risk taker. I am a risk taker, but not that much. So yeah, but
Yeah.
again, I think that's why it's important to just put it out there and go for it.
Yeah.
You know, go in the direction
Absolutely.
of your dreams, live the life you have imagined.
Yes.
Sure of
Is
that. You know.
I know the last company I worked for, they're multinational and had an office in Portugal and had many conversations over several years, and it was like, oh yeah, connect me with people. And then when push came to shove, it was just like, sidestepping, that whole thing. And
Mhm.
I knew, I would say maybe like 2 years before, or maybe like a year before, because that's right. So it was probably a year from the time I made my decision to the time I moved. And when it got closer and I was like, oh, it seems like you're sidestepping,
Mm,
I knew in my head, I was like, I'm not letting them have the final answer. Right.
absolutely, absolutely.
And so that's when I hatched my new plan, which
Mm,
was like, okay, how can I do this without them?
yes, because it's your
Right.
life, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, you don't own me. You don't get the final
Mhm,
say.
mhm.
And it's worked out better than I thought.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all that is to say is like, yes, you can have your plans. I firmly believe you should open your mouth, ask the questions, have the
Mhm,
conversations, work your network,
mhm.
because you never know when that next opportunity, an unexpected opportunity, might be there because you haven't said what was on your heart, what was on your mind. Um, but even if it doesn't go the way you anticipated, that doesn't mean that's the end of the road and that's the last stand.
Mhm. Yeah, that is so true. And that's what I did 20 years ago. That's what got this whole crazy ball rolling in the first place with ball.
Wow. Yeah.
This is what I've wanted to do, and it's not happening with you guys. So you know what? There's more than
Hmm.
one way to
Hmm.
one way to handle that. And then I still ended up keeping them as a client. So, you don't want to burn bridges anywhere you go
Yeah.
anyway. But
Exactly.
it was one of those things where I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm not going to keep waiting around for the company
Hmm.
to say yes or no. This is my life and I'm going to do it. And what's the worst thing
Exactly.
that can happen? And that's what I used to tell myself. I come back and get another job. And that's what
Hmm.
I did. That is, that was about the worst thing. And how bad is that?
Yeah.
Again, blessed to have
Yeah.
options. So
Yeah, because there's quite a lot of good jobs out there, but there's quite a lot of bad ones too.
oh,
And so,
life is too short to spend time working in those two.
yeah, right. So I was just like, you hate your job and it doesn't work out abroad, you can always find another job you hate.
Exactly, exactly. Until you decide you got to get back.
Action VJ said, are there four seasons in Amsterdam or is it lukewarm, cold, and colder?
Well, I just got here a month ago, and I was lucky that when I got here, it was so nice. I was able to go because, being island girl at this point, I was like, I need to find a beach club, and I found a beach club out like half an hour outside of Amsterdam, and I was like, and it was hot. So, and that was in what was that? That was late August, and so
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so but I mean, it probably was like 80 degrees, 81 degrees for
Oh,
them.
nice.
Hot. That's really, really warm. So
Yeah.
I have not experienced all the seasons, but I have been told that now it's getting into that, what do you call it? Cold and colder. I think the issue with Amsterdam is that it's gray a lot. It rains and it's gray. And it does rain.
Mm.
It does rain quite a bit. It's a beautiful city and it's a wonderful city. That's why they got a lot of these cozy cozy places to like, snuggle up to and all that when it gets.
Ooh.
So I'm looking forward to that. You make, what is it? You make lemonade out of lemons if the weather's not great all the time. But the nice thing too is being in Europe, you can fly somewhere or take a train someplace and
Mhm.
you will find the sun. You might have to travel to the south of France or the south of Spain or to Greece or somewhere like that. It may not be
Mhm.
summer, but you'll find some sunshine. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's exactly 4 seasons, but the summers tend to be, I think, a little short and
Mhm.
not super, super hot if that's important to you. But I guess there are other wonderful delights and reasons why the city's overcrowded all the time, and it's always
Mhm.
the tourists, whether the weather's good or whether it's bad. So I think it's just
Mhm.
a matter of getting a raincoat and some rain boots and an umbrella and making sure you're always prepared.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, but it'll be interesting to find out about the seasons, though. I'm looking forward to finding that.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to making my way there,
Yes,
like I
come
said, because it has
yes,
been on my list and it
yes,
gives me yet another reason to see you in
yes,
person.
absolutely. And don't wait till it gets hot because that might be like July.
No, no, no,
Might be,
no. You
it might
tell
be,
me when and I will get I don't even know who flies there, but I'll figure it out.
feeling, feeling. You can go through Paris on Air France. You can fly
Ooh,
out,
yeah, yeah.
and then I'm sure like EasyJet and all those, at least, and that's the other good thing. We both live in big cities that are
Mm,
very international. So somebody
yes.
you may have to connect somewhere, but you'll get here.
Oh,
You'll
good, good, good. I'm ready.
I'm
And
not letting the
look,
bad weather keep me in. I mean, I'm telling myself that now, but
we also don't have to wait for Amsterdam. We can meet in the south of France. I'm
let's do it.
okay with that.
Yes, let's do that. I was just there this weekend at another beach club, yet another beach club. I guess I'm always like I'm like a sunflower. I'm
I
like,
love
see,
a good beach club.
oh my God, I do too. And nobody does beach clubs like French beach clubs.
Ooh, and I have not experienced that yet, so I thinks it's
Yeah,
time for me
it's
to do
time.
so. I'm
It's
just saying.
time. I know. They're closing down for the season, which is one reason I went, and then also to see some friends who live down there.
It's
But
okay, I'll be there when they open back up.
no, that's what I need to find out when they're opening, like April, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay, no, that's perfect because
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything slotted into April. This 2025, I'm making up for some of the ground that I lost by
Oh yeah.
waiting the 205 days for my residency card.
Had to stay grounded.
So, yeah, I'm gonna be buck wild.
Oh, wow.
Well, Maureen, it's been an absolute pleasure
Yes,
having
same
you on
here.
tonight. Thank
Thank you
you for
so much for the
sharing.
invitation. And thanks to everybody out there for joining and listening and asking questions. And get
Yes.
those passport stamps. Get out there and see the world.
Yes. Yes. Get the passport stamps while they're still
Well,
stamping.
there are stamps. Exactly. So it's all gonna be,
It's
a
all
little.
gonna be electronic, much
I
to my
know. It
sadness,
makes me
because I
very sad.
literally just
Oh
got the
my God.
big book.
Okay, yeah, me too. I'm like, don't give me my stamps. Give me my. I
Exactly.
want to see where I
Make me
went.
feel good about this.
Exactly. Exactly. Need to know where I was.
But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this conversation. I'm just looking at the chat here, and I know that that sentiment was echoed in the chat. I also want to encourage you to hit the like button, and that was said earlier as well. And like I said, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to our continued conversations.
Yes, yes. And thank you for making it so fun. It's like, what time is it? 1 o'clock here, 1 a.m. And I'm like still chatty Cathy. So
Ooh, you're good. You good. It's 12:03 for me. So
and I got Dutch class in the morning. My tutor coming over. So I gotta
Oh,
be
okay. And
on
I've
it.
got Portuguese class in the afternoon. So with that, we are gonna say boa noite.
Good
And I will
night.
see you all next Thursday, same bat